Day 8 of ADHD meds. Well, today was a good day. I took my meds about 10:16 this morning, got up, had to get ready to go to Northern Virginia to go visit my grandbaby. And took a shower, did my thing, and started. Oh, before that, I actually read the side effects. I finally took the pamphlet out and I decided to go ahead and read the side effects on this medication. And they're quite scary, like numbness, tingling in the limbs, and sores, and all sorts of whatever weird shit that I'm like, usually very sensitive to medication. So I'm like, great, not great. And then of course, as soon as you read something, you start to feel it. Like I'm tingling in my toes, and it's like your brain connects something and thinks about it, and it immediately, that it happened. So obviously, that's probably not what happened. But anyway, as I got myself ready and got out the door, I just kind of briskly moved about my day, and I do take it with food and all that. I felt pretty good. Oh, one of the things that talked about euphoria, as a side effect. And if you have these side effects, immediately call the doctor or make sure. I'm like, what? And then I'm like, yeah, I felt really good. And I guess you could say it was euphoria a little bit, right? Um, and then I thought about, I know, how are you supposed to feel if you're normal? Are you maybe actually a little bit euphoric when your dopamine level and your serotonin levels are right? Do you feel better? Just if you didn't have the deficiency of those chemicals in your brain, maybe you would feel that way. And just observing that. And then I drove into Northern Virginia, and as I mentioned before, my son has ADHD, and as I got in, they had this video on YouTube, and this woman, I don't know her name, but it says "How to ADHD" on YouTube. And I was watching, what she was talking about, and she was reading comments from people that comment on her show of how they deal with their own ADHD and what kind of tricks they use to get themselves to do the things they don't want to do. Because in large part, what happens with ADHD, if it's not interesting or if it's a task that you don't want to do, then that's the stuff that gets pushed back. And it's so true for me, 100%. I mean, the things that need to get done always get done. Obviously, I run a business. I have to do payroll and essentials. I mean, I do those things always. There's no procrastination there. It has to get done. But the AI mastery course, the things I actually really want to do, but they have a degree of difficulty, and I know I have to really sit down and focus, and I'm like, oh, and I don't, and I just can't, the start doesn't even happen. We're talking about start and stop. Well, the start doesn't even happen. And then when I get into it, usually, then I feel I have to push through the whole thing, because if I stop, I won't get back to it. So I'm going to tune into her channel a little bit more and learn more too for myself. And just, it's a lot of information out there. A lot of people struggle with this. But what always hits me is, why do we have to struggle with this in the first place? And that comes back to certain types of trauma and childhood trauma, whatever. And then with the grandbaby, he's so sweet. And I'm just hoping that he's never going to have to experience this hell. And you know, so we know that we have to, or should at least, supposedly breastfeed our babies until they're 4 years old. We're close contact with the child, and we were taught, let the baby cry itself to sleep, and you don't want to do that. The separation from the human is what is traumatic to the child. And so he's being held a lot. I mean, he's being held by me, by his other grandparents, which just left this morning. They went back to Florida now. And then, of course, his parents, my son, and my daughter in law. And it's really, observing. And then we talked about, oh, he's okay, let him lay down a little bit. And he can cry a little bit, I mean, he has to, not soothing, but, give him a minute. That's fine. But then again, I'm like, he really wants to be held. And I'm like, let's just not, he's only 6 weeks old. So let's hold him, right? Let's go ahead and do that. And they absolutely do that. They're wonderful. They're absolutely wonderful parents. They absolutely do that. But we talk about it, and I always bring it up. He's not quite ready, to just be left or whatever. Again, you can leave them. It's not like you can't. But I'm paying close attention to that right now because I'm looking at, you know, hopefully he will not get this thing. I mean, his mother doesn't have it. My son does. So there's a likelihood that he will too, but hopefully we can break this whole generational, at least from my side of the family, you know, that he doesn't have to struggle with that as he gets older, as he grows up. And I'm just really honing in on the developmental stages of children, and in this case, my grandson. But those are the things that I really want to talk about more and also read up on more and share more, because the only way for us to all get better is to understand the connections and the epigenetics and the generational trauma and what causes all that. And then there's the other thing too, there's actually different spectrums. Like there's autism, ADHD, and autism. They call it ADH something or another. And I started to hear about that and how we isolate. And I isolate. I mean, I'm an extrovert, but yet I isolate. And I still have to see a psychiatrist. I have a therapist. But I'm wondering if I don't have some of that too. I don't want to self-diagnose, but I'm just paying attention to what people talk about, what the behavior patterns are. And I'm so late diagnosed with with ADHD. I mean, I had therapy 22 years ago, and I was talking about that my therapist never once said, "Oh, you have ADHD." That never came up in those early days. All kinds of stuff came up, with my mother in particular, the trauma, and, because I was severely beaten by her until I was 14 years old. It was every single day. Every single day. She came home and just unleashed the wrath of her because she had a stressful day. Whatever the case may be, whatever she had going on in her life, she let it out on me. And, and you look back at all of that, and it's just horrendous. So I'm just learning about, what else is in here that I want to fix for myself, and then how can I take this information and really take it to our patient load. We have roughly 600 patients in our practice in 3 locations. And I know a lot of people are just, they're living their lives, they go to work, they do the thing, they go to therapy, whatever. But I see still a lot of non-understanding, because anytime I talk about epigenetics, or anytime I talk about that, we can pass things on from the eggs and the sperm and 3 generations, and how all that fits together, people are very interested, and they've never heard about it. And so that's the mission here. The mission is to compile this data that I'm learning about, and take that, and take that forward in a way that it's easily accessible. And a lot of it is probably already out there. Like I said, a lot of people talk about it. I'm just finally, hopefully, able to focus enough to where I can put my spin on it or my story on it to see if it helps anybody, or and engage with people. And I also want to connect with other people that have this, to learn from and to get better, because obviously there are groups out there, and I've not done that. I've not actually done that, and apparently it's out there. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at for today. And well, in final, the medication lasted exactly 4 hours. I could now track it, probably even less. Oh, that was the other thing it said. If you take this medication, you may not work as well after a while. And I'm one of those people. I mean, yeah, certain things, my body sucks it right up. So when it comes back to how people possibly, when they say abuse it, I don't know if they're trying to abuse it. It just fades. And if you're trying to feel the way you want to feel to make your life happen or go to work or whatever, yeah, and then you try to go to the doctor and say, hey, this isn't enough, immediately you're being accused. And I'm going to be a patient advocate, because to me, I'm tracking it for myself, what works, what doesn't work, which medications. and I'm probably not done yet figuring out which one is going to be the right one for me. I'm now leaning more to the extended release, or at least 2 a day, so I can get a full 8 hour workday in. But I can now better understand what people are struggling with, and yeah, I'm sure some people probably do abuse it, but I think not everybody is doing it intentionally. It's just you get on this med and then you realize it's fading, and then when you go talk to a doctor about it, you're being accused of abusing, or you want too much, and you're drug seeking. The conversation has to change. We have to really find better ways. And then, sadly, that we even need medication. That's another whole conversation. I wish we didn't, but we do. So, and I know there are also the non-stimulants and all that. So I might go through the whole rigmarole until I find the right one that works for me. Um, because one thing for sure, I have no intentions of like pill popping. I've never done that. And if that were to start showing itself, then I'd probably just stop. Oh, and I said in final, well, there's not in final, there's one more thing. I also recently quit cannabis after having initially 17 years without anything, and then 7 years I kind of did, and then most recently I did stop, so I probably still feel some of that coming out of my system. But this time it's by choice. The first time was, a job situation. If we were tested, we could lose a job. It was many years ago. And when this time it's totally by choice. And I realized it probably was not a good idea to do it at all. And they say it's not good with ADHD, for people with ADHD. And now that it's leaving my body, yeah, I'm definitely done. Number one, that. And that's a big observation. So I'm making a lot of changes and really observing how it's affecting me. And, maybe that has a lot to do with procrastination too, even though I work, but, I don't know. So I'm just checking all of that because the goal is to feel better, do the work, and then eventually tell the whole crazy story that I think is entertaining. At least the people that have heard it said, yeah, you really should talk about this stuff. So that's it. Divine Feminine, more to come. Lots of love. Oh.